Part 1. 72 hours before the signature. The charity live stream had been running for 12 minutes when my childhood best friend held my mother's surgery consent to the camera and said, "June would rather let her mother die than let me help." 300 donors went silent inside the glass atrium of St. Ormond Hospital. The cameras did not. That was the point. Behind Ava Monroe. The donor wall glowed with soft blue names, families who had given money, companies that had bought kindness in gold letters. My mother's name appeared on a private room monitor above the stairs. Patient, Margaret Arlen. Status, awaiting valve repair authorization. Consent window remaining, 72 hours. 72 hours. In my first life. That countdown destroyed me. I was standing in the same atrium then, wearing the same wrinkled blouse, with the same hospital wristband from sleeping in a visitor chair. Ava stood beneath the same charity banner, pale and beautiful in a cream suit, tears shining under the lights as if grief had hired a stylist. My father told me to stop being selfish. My brother told me not to turn Mom's surgery into a power trip. Ava said she only wanted to save the woman who had loved us both. Then she put the consent form in my hands. Temporary medical decision transfer. I signed because the live stream was on. Because my mother was upstairs. Because Ava cried like someone I used to trust. And because everyone in the room looked at me as if a daughter asking one more question was a murderer with paperwork. By nightfall, Ava moved my mother to a private surgical team funded by the Monroe Hope Foundation. By morning, the procedure failed. By the end of the week, the hospital foundation announced Ava as the grieving heroine who stepped in when the Arlen daughter froze. My father gave her my mother's house keys. My brother gave her my mother's foundation seat. The news called me the woman who delayed consent for control. 3 months later, I found the truth in a discarded audio file. Ava had not been trying to save my mother. She had been trying to hide a donor fund diversion before St. Ormond's annual audit. The private surgical team had been a cover to move the patient file, bury the medication delay, and make my hesitation look like the only scandal in the room. And Elias Voss, the hospital chairman I had married in secret 3 years earlier, had not abandoned me. He had been told I transferred authority voluntarily and refused all contact. I died in that life outside a locked records office, listening to Ava's voice through a cracked phone speaker. Once June signs, the family will blame her for everything. Let her husband think she chose it. Then I woke up this morning at 5:09 in the visitor recliner beside my mother's bed, with the countdown still at 72 hours, and Elias asleep on a video call from Singapore, his face blue with dawn on the other side of the world. Same hospital, same live stream scheduled, same consent form waiting under Ava's polished hand. Same secret marriage my family thought was a joke because the man I married used his mother's surname, Elias Reed. When he volunteered in the emergency wing, they thought he was a quiet night shift paramedic with good manners and no money. They never cared enough to learn that Elias Reed Voss was the chairman of Voss Care Group, the company that owned half of St. Ormond's debt and all of its patients. In my first life, I tried to reveal him too late. This time, I did not need a husband to enter the room. I needed a microphone to stay on. Elias woke up when I dropped the phone. It hit the visitor room carpet without breaking, and his voice came through the speaker, rough with sleep. "June?" I picked it up with both hands. For 1 second. Seeing his face alive on the screen hurt more than waking had in the first life. I spent months thinking his silence meant judgment. I pictured him reading my signed transfer and deciding I had chosen my family over him. I did not know Ava's foundation lawyer had sent him a scanned consent packet with my signature, a blocked contact notice, and one neat lie. June Arlen has requested no outside interference. This morning, before fear could make me polite, I told him everything. Not the part about dying. Not in full. There are truths that need proof before love can hold them. I told him what would happen. Ava. Page 2. Bell Surgical Partners. The green room. The elevator. The sentence that had ruined me. Let her husband think she chose it. Elias did not interrupt once. When I finished, he said, "Do you want me to call St. Ormond Legal now?" No. His eyes sharpened. June. If you call first, they will say I used my husband to pressure the hospital. I need patient rights, not chairman rights. Those can be the same phone line if someone is hurting you. I know. My voice cracked there. I let it. Only with him. But this time, I need them to hurt themselves on the record. He breathed out slowly, the way he did when he wanted to break something and chose a sentence instead. Tell me what to preserve. That was why I loved him. Not because he could enter rooms and make people nervous, because he could stay out, when staying out gave me space to stand. The donor broadcast archive. I said, the green room lapel audio, the service elevator safety recording, the hospital conflict disclosure, and anything from Monroe Hope to Bell Surgical Partners in the last 30 days. Done. And Elias? Yes. If I sound calm later, do not mistake it for safe. His face changed. Never, he said. At 5:42, I sent the anonymous preservation note to Marla Chen. At 6:10, I asked Dr. Grant through the patient portal whether she personally recommended any decision transfer. At 6:31, I downloaded the hospital conflict policy. At 7:04, I stood in the bathroom, washed my face, and practiced the first question until it no longer sounded like begging. Which page is missing? By the time the donor live stream began, I was exhausted enough to be steady. Ava lifted the consent form higher for the live stream. Her eyes were wet. But her voice was steady, in the way public virtue is steady when it knows where the camera is. June, please, she said. Your mother has 72 hours before the surgical window closes. Dr. Bell's team is ready. The donors are ready. The foundation will cover everything. All I need is your signature transferring temporary medical decision authority. My father, Conrad Arlen, stood beside her with one hand over his heart. June, your mother loved Ava like a daughter. Do not punish her because you feel replaced. There it was. Not a fake cousin, not a crying sister. Something worse. Ava was the girl I had saved when we were 13, after her own family left her outside a shelter with a backpack and a fever. My mother brought her home for 2 weeks. I shared my room for 6 months. I helped her apply for scholarships. I introduced her to the hospital charity board after my mother said Ava had a gift for making wealthy people feel useful. And now she was using that gift to turn my mother's surgery into a public trial. In my first life. I grabbed the form and begged them to stop. This time, I looked at the camera operator. Can you tilt the donor camera down to the consent table? I asked. The atrium blinked. Ava's tears paused. My father frowned. What are you doing? If this is about saving my mother, I said, the paper should be as visible as my refusal. A few donors shifted. A man from the foundation board lowered his program. Ava recovered quickly. June, this is not a performance. Then the document will not mind being seen. The camera operator looked at the hospital communications director. The director looked at the live stream monitor, then at the donors, then at the timer above the stairs. The camera tilted. The consent form filled the side screen. I stepped closer. Page 1 says temporary decision transfer. I said, Where is page 2? Ava's hand tightened. My brother Daniel snapped. Don't start. I am starting with the missing page. The first small question entered the room and sat down. 72 hours remained. And for the first time in 2 lives, the clock was not only counting down for me. Part 2. 60 hours before the first page lied. Page 2 arrived from Ava's folder, not from the hospital chart. That mattered. In hospitals, paper has addresses. A consent form lives in the patient portal, in the chart, in the witness log, in the version history. A loose page pulled from a foundation folder is not automatically false, but it is not automatically family either. I looked at the page without touching it. Who printed this? Ava gave me the wounded look she used when she wanted people to think facts were knives. June, your mother is upstairs. Are we really doing printer trivia? Printer trivia moved my mother's authority to you. The phrase, cut cleaner than anger. Several donors looked at the screen again. My father lowered his voice. You are embarrassing us. No, I said. The camera is only showing what you brought. The communications director, a woman named Marla Chen, whispered to the audio tech. I saw the red light on Ava's lapel microphone remain solid. Good. In my first life. Ava stepped into the donor green room during the break and said the sentence that ended me. The mic had been muted then, this morning, before the live stream. I sent Marla one message from an anonymous patient family account. Please keep green room audio archived. Consent coercion risk. I did not accuse Ava. I did not mention Elias. I did not say I had died and returned. I asked for an archive. Archives are quieter than revenge and more patient. Dr. Bell, the private surgeon Ava wanted, moved toward the stage with a careful smile. Miss Arlen, I understand this is emotional. Your mother needs speed. She needs the correct consent. The foundation has arranged full coverage. Coverage is not consent. His smile thinned. The official St. Ormond attending, Dr. Leona Grant, stood at the back of the atrium in my first life. She disappeared after the transfer, and I assumed she had abandoned us. Later, I learned Ava's team had removed her from the chart before she could object. This time, Dr. Grant was still there, arms folded, expression unreadable. I turned to her. Dr. Grant, are you my mother's attending physician? The room shifted. Doctors dislike being dragged into family theater, but they dislike false charts more. Yes, Dr. Grant said. Did you request that I transfer medical decision authority to Ava Monroe? Ava spoke before she could answer. Dr. Grant agreed the procedure was urgent. I looked at Ava. That was not my question. Dr. Grant walked forward slowly. I recommended timely consent for the approved surgical plan. I did not recommend transferring decision authority. The donors heard the difference. Ava's lips parted. My father said, Ava is family. No, I said. Ava is a witness. The word changed her face. Witness. People who perform virtue fear boring labels. Witness. Version. Source. Timestamp. They do not sound dramatic. They sound like rooms with locked doors. I pointed to page 2 on the screen. This page authorizes transfer to Bell Surgical Partners. Is Bell Surgical Partners part of St. Ormond? Dr. Grant's eyes sharpened. No. Is Dr. Bell currently credentialed for my mother's case at St. Ormond? Silence. Dr. Bell said, credentialing is in process. So, not currently. He looked at Ava. Ava looked at my father. My father looked at me like I had created the problem by noticing it. The countdown above the stairs clicked silently. 60 hours, 14 minutes, and 22 seconds. Ava's voice softened. June, I know you are afraid. When we were children, your mother took me in because she saw I needed help. Let me return that kindness. In my first life. That line broke me. It reminded me of 13-year-old Ava shivering on our bedroom floor while I gave her my extra blanket. It reminded me of my mother braiding both our hair before school and saying the world was cruel enough without girls learning cruelty from it. This time, I did not let the memory become a leash. Return it by answering. I said, "Who printed page 2? Marla Chen stepped closer to the communication station. The document footer says Foundation Admin Printer 3. Ava's eyes flicked to her. The first crack. The Foundation Admin Printer was not in the hospital consent office. It was in Ava's donor suite, I said. Can the hospital pull the portal version? My father exploded. Enough. Your mother has 60 hours. Yes, I said. 60 hours before they need my signature. Plenty of time to find the official page. Doctor, Grant took out her tablet. Ava's microphone stayed on, and the first page began to lose. Then Marla said, "There is a page 3. Ava turned toward her too quickly. That was how I knew page 3 mattered more than page 2. The camera feed moved closer to the Foundation packet. Behind the transfer language and the surgeon authorization, a third sheet had been tucked beneath the signature page, folded so the bottom half did not show when Ava held it up. Foundation, Release and Media Consent. I read the heading once. Then again, Media Consent? I asked. Ava's voice softened. The Foundation only wants to share your mother's recovery story if the procedure succeeds. Donors respond to hope. And if it fails? June. Read the paragraph. She did not. So Marla enlarged it on the side screen. The undersigned authorizes Monroe Hope Foundation to use patient story, family statements, and related images for donor communication, crisis response, and reputational protection connected to sponsored care. Reputational protection. There are phrases that look harmless until you imagine them in a headline. My father frowned. Ava, what is that? For the first time all morning, he sounded less certain. Ava kept her eyes on me. Standard donor language. Then why was it under a medical transfer? Because the Foundation pays. No, Dr. Grant said. Everyone turned. The attending physician's voice stayed level, but it had lost all patience. Payment assistance does not require media release from a patient's daughter as a condition of decision authority. The donors heard it. Some of them looked uncomfortable for the first time, because they understood their names were on a wall built by this kind of language. I looked at Ava. So, if I signed, you controlled the surgery decision, the transfer summary, and the public story. I controlled damage, she said. Not helped. Controlled. The word came out before she dressed it. Daniel rubbed a hand over his mouth. Ava recovered. Damage to your mother. Damage to the Foundation. Damage to the hospital. You are not the only person affected. I am the person you needed to sign. Because you are legally next of kin. And inconvenient. She did not answer. The countdown continued. 59 hours, 58 minutes, and 4 seconds. Under 60 hours now. The donor camera stayed on the folded page 3 long enough for everyone to see that the paper Ava called help had 3 jobs. Take my authority, move my mother, and own the story after. The page had not lied loudly. It had whispered in contract language. Part 3. 48 hours before Ava became family. The official portal version did not include Ava's name. It listed me June Arlen, adult daughter. Primary medical decision contact. Alternate contact, Conrad Arlen. Father, no Ava Monroe. No Bell Surgical Partners. No foundation transfer. The atrium did not erupt. Real proof often lands quietly at first because people need a moment to let go of the lie that had made them comfortable. Ava lowered her eyes. I was not trying to take anything. Conrad asked me to help. My father stiffened. Good. In my first life. Everyone looked at me when Ava cried. This time, they looked at each other. I turned to my father. Did you ask Ava to print an extra page moving authority to her foundation surgeon? He swallowed. I asked her to find options. Did you ask her to add herself? June. That is not an answer. Daniel, my brother, stepped between us. Dad is exhausted. Mom is dying upstairs, and you're interrogating him like a criminal. If exhaustion printed legal authority, hospitals would need fewer printers. Someone behind the donor wall made a sound that might have been a laugh and turned it into a cough. Daniel flushed. You think you're clever because you married a hospital guy? The room turned. Ava's eyes lifted. There it was, the second stage. In my first life, Daniel revealed my marriage in anger after Ava told him privately. The donors heard secret wife and stopped hearing consent. They heard conflict, seduction, betrayal. They thought I had married a hospital employee to influence my mother's care. This time, I let Daniel say it. Which hospital guy? I asked. Daniel sneered. Elias Reed. The night shift paramedic you married at City Hall and hid from everyone? Don't act innocent. The communications director looked toward me, worried now. The live stream comments were probably moving too fast to read. Ava stepped in, softer than Daniel. June, nobody is judging love. But your husband's connection to St. Ormond makes your decision complicated. That is why I offered to hold authority temporarily, to protect you from conflict. Perfect. She had made herself sound like a shield while reaching for the pen. I looked at Marla. Can you put the hospital conflict policy on the side screen? Marla blinked. Which section? Patient, family, spouse, employed by hospital. Ava's mouth tightened. The policy appeared. Employment relationship alone does not remove next of kin decision authority unless the employee has direct clinical control. Documented coercion or financial benefit tied to the decision. I read it aloud, slowly enough for donors to follow. Did Elias Reed have direct clinical control over my mother's care? Doctor, Grant answered. No. Did he benefit financially from whether Ava's foundation surgeon took over? Doctor, Grant said. Not from the St. Ormond approved plan. Did he coerce anyone? Daniel muttered. He exists. A lot of men do. Most of them are not consent forms. The line landed better than I expected. Then Ava changed weapons. She lifted her chin and let the tears disappear. This was why she was more dangerous than a fragile girl. She could change from soft to reasonable in one breath. Fine, she said. Let's be precise. June's husband is not just Elias Reed. He is Elias Reed Voss, chairman of Voss Care Group. His company holds debt exposure connected to St. Ormond. June hid a marriage to a hospital chairman while deciding her mother's surgery. There it was. The secret became public. The room inhaled. My father looked genuinely shocked. Daniel looked like he had bitten foil. Ava watched me closely, waiting for the panic that ruined me before. I took out my phone. Elias filed the marriage disclosure with St. Ormond 3 years ago. I said, "Can we open it?" Ava's face changed. Not much. Enough. Marla looked at hospital legal. Hospital Legal looked at the live stream, then at the patient monitor, then chose the side of the record. The disclosure opened. Spouse, June Arlen. Filed by Elias Reed Voss. Conflict review. No direct clinical role. No patient chart access. No decision authority. Instruction. If spouse's family member becomes a St. Ormond patient, assign separate attending and patient rights observer. Patient rights observer assigned. Dr. Leona Grant. Dr. Grant looked at Ava. That is why I am here, she said. 48 hours remained. Ava had tried to make my marriage a trap. Instead, it had assigned a witness before she knew she needed to silence one. Part 4. 36 hours before the green room. The live stream went to a scheduled donor break. The red light on the main camera turned off. Ava relaxed too soon. That was the problem with public performers. They respect visible cameras more than systems. Marla Chen led donors toward a refreshment table, while the hospital legal team moved into a side room. My father followed them, still repeating that everyone needed to focus on my mother. Daniel paced near the elevators, texting so angrily his thumb looked like it might crack the screen. Ava touched my elbow. I looked at her hand until she removed it. June, she said softly, we need to talk without everyone watching. In my first life. I followed her. Of course I did. She was Ava. She had slept on the floor of my room. She knew the scar on my knee, the sound I made when I tried not to cry, the way my mother hummed when she folded towels. She knew where every old door in me was hidden. This time. I walked with her to the donor green room because I wanted the door open. Not physically. Technically, at the communications desk. Marla's audio board still recorded every active lapel microphone for archive. Ava's mic, pinned beneath her cream blazer, showed a steady green line. The countdown monitor outside read 36 hours, 2 minutes, and 9 seconds. Ava closed the green room door. Her face changed before the latch clicked. The tears vanished. You should have signed in the atrium, she said. No softness, no grief, just annoyance. I felt something in me mourn and harden at the same time. You printed a page that was not in the chart. I printed a solution. You put yourself in charge of my mother. Because you freeze when decisions matter. There it was, gaslighting with old language. Freeze. Difficult. Overthinking. Words she had learned from my family and polished until they sounded like diagnosis. I sat in the chair across from her. What happens after I sign? Your mother gets surgery. With Dr. Bell. Yes. Why him? Because he is available. Because he is paid through Monroe Hope? Her eyes sharpened. Careful. That is a yes-shaped warning. Ava leaned forward. You have no idea what it costs to keep a foundation clean enough for donors. Your mother understood public confidence. Conrad understands it. You only understand suspicion. I understand page 2. She laughed. One short breath. Page 2 would have saved you. From what? From being blamed when the chart review finds the medication delay. The room went quiet inside me. There it was, in my first life. I learned about the medication delay after my mother died. A missed anticoagulant adjustment, logged late, covered by a transfer note. It had not caused everything. Real medicine is not that simple, but it mattered. It should have been disclosed before surgery. Ava knew. I kept my voice level. Who delayed it? Ava looked at the closed door. You really do not know when to accept help. Who delayed it? Nobody delayed anything. There was a donor system hold, a billing classification issue. The point is, if Bell's team takes over, the file resets cleanly. Your mother gets treated, the foundation absorbs cost, the hospital avoids panic, and you avoid having your husband's debt company tied to a mess. My skin went cold. The file resets cleanly. I repeated. She heard herself too late. Her eyes moved down to the lapel mic. I looked at it with her. Green light. Still on. Ava stood so fast, the chair hit the wall. Outside the door, someone knocked. Marla Chen's voice came through, thin and formal. Ava, Hospital Legal would like you back in the atrium. Ava stared at me. For the first time since we were 13. I saw fear in her without pity attached. You recorded me, she whispered. No, I said. You wore the microphone. 36 hours remained, and the green room had become a witness. Part 5. 24 hours before my father chose a side. Hospital Legal did not play the green room audio immediately. They were careful. Careful people always look slow beside liars. But slowness is not weakness when it keeps the record clean. They pulled Marla's archive. They confirmed the mic ID. They checked whether Ava had been informed that Foundation lapels stayed archived during donor programming. She had. She had signed the media agreement herself that morning. While they worked, my father cornered me near the chapel. Hospitals have strange little chapels tucked between vending machines and elevators, as if grief can be scheduled between coffee and radiology. My father stood beneath a stained glass window and looked older than he had in the atrium. June, he said, do not ruin Ava. Of all the things he could have said, that one was almost impressive. Mom is upstairs. I know. And you are worried about Ava? His mouth tightened. Ava made mistakes, but she has been holding this family together. By printing fake consent pages, by showing up, by talking to donors, by doing the things you never wanted to do. There it was, the real wound, old and ugly. After my mother became ill, I stayed in hospital rooms, learned medication names, argued with insurance, cleaned the house, and signed forms nobody photographed. Ava attended donor lunches, hugged my father in hallways, and wrote captions about chosen family. To people like my father, care only existed when other people admired it. I did not want to perform grief for donors. I said, you never understood the foundation. I understood, Mom. He looked away. That hurt more than it should have. Did you know about the medication delay? I asked. His silence answered before his mouth did. Conrad, I knew there was an issue, he said. Ava said it was administrative. And page 2? She said it was faster. You let her make herself my mother's decision maker. You were married to Elias Voss and did not tell me. I almost laughed. So your punishment for my marriage was handing Mom to Ava? I am your father. Then answer like one. Did you choose Ava because you trusted her, or because blaming me was easier? The chapel air seemed to still. My father sat down in the front pew. For 1 second, I saw the man who had cried into my mother's blanket the first night she stayed in the ICU. Then he disappeared under all the pride he had learned to wear over weakness. I was tired, he said. It was true. It was not enough. So was I. He looked at me then, not with apology, not yet, maybe never, but with the first awareness that exhaustion had not belonged to him alone. I left him in the chapel for 1 minute, not because I had won, because if I stayed, I would ask him to be sorry in a way he was not ready to be, and I would hate myself for wanting it. In the hallway, outside the chapel, between a vending machine and a cart of folded blankets, I opened the last voicemail my mother had left before the valve failure made long calls too tiring. Junebug, her voice said, thin but amused. If your father is hovering, Tell him hovering is not a medical specialty. I press the phone to my ear with both hands. And if Ava is there, feed her something. She gets mean when she tries to live on coffee and compliments. I laughed once, which broke into something wetter. Then my mother's voice softened. You do not have to be the strong one every minute. You just have to come back after the minute is over. The voicemail ended. The hallways stayed ordinary. Vending machine hum, elevator chime, someone's shoes squeaking toward radiology. No violin, no spotlight, no witness to make grief useful. I wiped my face with the heel of my hand. 1 minute was over. My phone buzzed. Message from Dr. Grant. Audio authenticated. Patient rights review reconvening in atrium. 24 hours remain. I stood. My father whispered, "What happens to Ava?" "The same thing that happens to me." I said, "The record gets read." Part 6. 6 hours before the cropped letter opened. By 6 hours remaining, the atrium had changed shape. The donor banners were still there. The flowers were still there. My mother's monitor still showed the countdown, but the room no longer belonged to Ava's performance. It belonged to procedure. Hospital legal stood beside Dr. Grant. Marla Chen managed the live stream feed, now delayed by 30 seconds and labeled Patient Rights Review. The donor board sat in the front row, looking less charitable and more personally exposed. My father sat alone. Daniel stood behind him, arms folded, no longer texting. Ava entered with Dr. Bell and a lawyer I did not recognize. She had changed out of the cream blazer. That told me she understood the mic had made it dirty. Dr. Grant began. We are reviewing whether temporary medical decision authority should remain with June Arlen, adult daughter of the patient, or transfer to Ava Monroe under the proposed foundation consent page. Ava's lawyer objected to the live stream. Dr. Grant answered. The patient-family dispute was made public by the foundation broadcast. The review summary will be public. Protected medical details will be limited. That was the line I needed. Not revenge through exposure. Correction in the same room where the harm began. Ava's lawyer tried to take the room back before the audio played. My client has a letter from the patient, he said. It establishes that Mrs. Arlen considered Ava Monroe a daughter and trusted her judgment. My father looked up. Ava did not look at him. She looked at me. The lawyer placed a scan on the side screen. Dear Ava, you have been a second daughter in this house. If I am ever unable to speak, I hope June remembers that love is not ownership, and that accepting help is not weakness. Margaret Arlen. The words hit places in me no document should have been allowed to reach. My mother had written that. I knew her hand. I knew the way she crossed the letter T like she was impatient with it. I knew the soft loop on the M in Margaret. For 1 second, the room blurred, and I was 15 again, watching my mother set an extra plate at the table because Ava had nowhere else to go. Ava saw it. That was why she had saved the letter. Not because it gave her authority, because it made pain hesitate. June, my father said, voice raw. Your mother did write that. I know. Ava's lawyer softened his tone. Then surely the patient wanted cooperation. Open the full page, I said. He paused. This is the relevant portion. That is what people say when the crop is doing work. Marla looked at hospital legal. They nodded. She expanded the scan. The full letter appeared. The paragraph above the cropped section read, June is my daughter. Medical decisions belong first with her, even when grief makes her difficult. Because she has always stayed when staying was ugly. The paragraph below read, Ava needs love, not authority. If she confuses the two, be kind, but do not hand her the pen." No one breathed. Ava stared at the screen as if my mother had reached through it and taken back a key. The lawyer's face went stiff. I looked at Ava, and for a moment, I did not feel victory. I felt tired. She had used the one thing in the room that could still wound me cleanly: my mother's handwriting. "Where did you get the letter?" Dr. Grant asked. Ava's voice was flat. "Margaret gave it to me." "The full letter?" No answer. "Hospital Legal enlarged the file properties. Scan created 2 weeks ago. Crop modified this morning at 7:22. Modified by Monroe Hope Media Suite." That was not the climax. It was worse in a smaller way. Ava had not forged my mother's love. She had edited it until it served her. Then Ava's lawyer made the mistake careful lawyers make when their client has given them a pretty folder and an ugly truth. He tried to prove funding. For context, he said, Monroe Hope Foundation had already committed financial support for Mrs. Arlen's care. My client was not stealing authority. She was preparing resources. He uploaded a donor packet. The first page looked generous: a pledge letter, a budget line, a transfer estimate, enough numbers to calm donors who wanted charity to look like math. I watched Ava's face, not the document. She did not look relieved. She looked at the lawyer as if he had opened the wrong drawer. "Scroll to the invoice list." I said. The lawyer ignored me. Dr. Grant did not scroll. The invoice list appeared. Bell Surgical Partners retainer. Date: 11 days ago. Description: urgent family authority transfer support. Second invoice: media response coordination. Date: 9 days ago. Description: Arlen hesitation narrative. Donor-facing draft. The atrium seemed to lose air. My father stood halfway, then sat again. Daniel whispered, "What the hell?" Ava closed her eyes. For the first time all day, she looked tired of being clever. "Ava," Dr. Grant said, "why did Bell Surgical Partners invoice your foundation for family authority transfer support 11 days before Mrs. Arlen's surgical window opened?" Ava's lawyer said, "That description is vendor language." Then why did the vendor know there would be a family authority transfer? No answer. I looked at the second invoice. Arlen hesitation narrative. There it was. My role. Purchased before I played it. Not daughter. Not decision contact. Not person sitting beside a hospital bed. Hesitation narrative. In my first life. I thought I had failed because I hesitated. Now I understood hesitation had been assigned to me like a costume. Do not open the draft statement. I said. The lawyer froze with his hand over the file. Everyone looked at me. We do not need another prepared speech. I said, the invoice is enough. It shows the job you paid for before my mother ever reached the consent window. For once. Ava had no elegant correction. The donor board heard that. So did the live stream. Money had joined the microphone. The review broke for verification after that. Not for mercy. For chain of custody. Hospital Legal copied the invoice packet, checked the media agreement, matched Ava's lapel mic ID, and confirmed the elevator safety recording had not been edited. By 3 hours remaining, the atrium no longer felt like a fundraiser. It felt like a room waiting for a recording to breathe. No one was asking Ava to cry now. They were asking her timeline to survive contact with its own invoices. And timelines are much less forgiving than people. Part 7. 3 hours before the mic finished her speech. Marla played the first clip. Ava's voice filled the atrium. You should have signed in the atrium. My father closed his eyes. The second clip. Page 2 would have saved you. The donor board shifted. The 3rd. If Bell's team takes over, the file resets cleanly. Doctor. Bell's lawyer whispered something urgent. Doctor. Bell stared at the floor. Ava did not cry. Not this time. She looked at me with a kind of hatred that felt more honest than all her tears. Doctor, Grant said. Miss Monroe, what file did you expect to reset? Ava's lawyer said. My client will not answer speculative questions. I raised my hand. Everyone looked at me. And for one strange second, I remembered being a child in school beside Ava. Both of us waiting to be called on. Both of us believing the future was something fair people could reach if they worked hard enough. Play the elevator audio. I said. Ava's face changed. She had forgotten the elevator. In my first life, after I signed, she rode the service elevator with Dr. Bell and my father. The old donor building had security cameras, but no audio. Then, this year, St. Ormond had installed safety recording after a harassment claim in the service bank. Ava knew that. She had attended the donor meeting approving the upgrade. But she did not think of systems as witnesses unless cameras pointed at her face. Marla looked to hospital legal. They nodded. The elevator clip played. Doctor, once June signs, I can admit under foundation coverage. Ava's voice. Good. Conrad will say she delayed. The delay note stays buried? Doctor, it stays outside the transfer summary. And Elias? Dr. Voscare only sees voluntary family transfer. Good. Let her husband think she chose it. The room froze. There are moments when people stop needing interpretation. This was one. Ava did not move. My father did. He stood slowly, like each inch cost him. You told me, he said to Ava. June was refusing surgery. Ava's voice was flat. She was refusing the right path. You told me the medication issue was administrative. It was manageable. You told me you loved Margaret. That one finally hit her. Not because it was sacred, because it was useful, and he had taken it away. I did love her. Ava said, I loved this family when June was too busy being morally superior to notice it was falling apart. There it was. Not tears, not charity. The debt underneath. I stepped toward her. I noticed you when no one else did. Her mouth twisted. And you never let me forget it. That stunned me. For years. I had thought Ava resented being abandoned by her own family. I had not understood she resented being saved by mine. She looked at the donor board, at my father, at the hospital lawyers, and then back at me. You think kindness makes people equal, she said. It doesn't. It leaves one person owing and the other pretending not to collect. The atrium was silent. It was the first true thing Ava said all day, and it was still not an excuse. I never asked you to pay me back. I said, you didn't have to. Everyone remembered. 3 hours remained. The mic had finished her speech for her. After the clock stopped belonging to them, the consequences began quietly. The patient rights decision took 47 minutes. That mattered to me. Not everything should happen instantly because someone cries or yells or has money in the room. 47 minutes meant records were checked. Legal authority was confirmed. Audio was logged. Doctor. Bell's proposed transfer was suspended. The medication delay was moved into formal review. My mother's care stayed with Dr. Grant's St. Ormond team, with me as decision contact and hospital patient rights oversight attached until after surgery. The countdown did not vanish. It changed meaning. 5 hours, 4 minutes, and 18 seconds. Not time left before I had to surrender. Time left before the approved plan moved forward without Ava's hand on the pen. My father approached me after the decision. Daniel stayed behind him, smaller somehow, without anger filling the space. "June," my father said. I waited. He looked at the atrium floor. I believed the wrong person. It was the first honest, apology-shaped object he had offered. But an apology-shaped object is not the same as repair. You believed the easier person. He nodded once, the movement barely visible. "Can I see your mother before surgery?" My instinct was old and immediate. Say yes. Be good. Keep peace. Do not be the daughter who blocks a husband from his wife's bedside. Then I remembered 2 lives of being asked to make everyone comfortable after they had made me bleed. "With Dr. Grant present," I said. He closed his eyes, then opened them. All right. Daniel looked at me like he wanted to argue, but the elevator audio had taken the shape out of his anger. Ava was not arrested in the atrium. Stories lie when they make consequences that clean. She was removed from Foundation Authority pending investigation. Dr. Bell was suspended from St. Ormond credentialing review. The donor board froze Monroe Hope disbursements. Hospital legal preserved every file Ava had wanted reset. She passed me near the elevators with 2 security officers behind her. For 1 second, I saw the 13-year-old girl on my bedroom floor again. Wet hair, feverish cheeks, hands wrapped around a mug my mother had given her. Then I saw the woman who had tried to bury my mother's chart under gratitude. "June," she said. I did not stop. I did love her. That made me stop. Not turn. Stop. Ava's voice was smaller. I did. I looked at the elevator doors ahead of me. I know. Behind me, she breathed in sharply, as if she had expected denial. That is why what you did was worse. I said. The doors opened. I stepped inside. Upstairs. My mother was still unconscious, her hair silver against the hospital pillow. I sat beside her bed and took her hand carefully around the IV lines. There were no cameras in the room, no donors, no speeches, just the machine rhythm, the pale winter light, and the woman who had once brought home a sick girl because she believed kindness should be practical. I cried there, quietly, privately, like something that belonged to me. My phone buzzed. Elias. I answered the video call. He looked exhausted and furious in that restrained way of his. Still in a suit, still in Singapore, still not the hero entering through a door at the perfect second. I wanted to speak, he said. I know. You told me not to. I needed the mic to do it. His expression softened. It did. For a moment, neither of us said anything. In our first life, silence had been used to separate us. My blocked calls, his unanswered messages, the transfer form that made him think I chose to disappear. This silence was different. This one stayed connected. I am flying back, he said. Mom's surgery first. I know. And Elias? Yes. When you arrive, do not come through the donor atrium. His mouth curved faintly. Service elevator? Service elevator. Understood. He arrived 40 minutes before they took my mother upstairs. Not through the donor atrium. Not with hospital security clearing a path. The service elevator opened beside a cart of clean linens, and Elias stepped out in a wrinkled suit with one overnight bag and the look of a man who had spent 14 hours crossing time zones while reading every preserved file twice. Daniel saw him first. For one breath, my brother looked ready to say something stupid about billionaires and influence. Then Elias stopped 3 feet away from me and asked, "May I sit?" Not hug, not command, not claim. May I sit? Daniel had no defense against manners that did not perform. I nodded. Elias sat in the plastic chair beside mine, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. He looked at the surgery doors, not at the donor hall downstairs. Dr. Grant briefed me, he said. As chairman? As spouse, with your permission, and as someone who is keeping his mouth shut unless asked a direct question. I let out a breath that almost became a laugh. My father stood near the window with his visitor badge turned backward. Elias did not approach him. That was another small mercy. Powerful men often think every room asks for their handshake. Elias knew this room asked for restraint. After a while, my father said, Mr. Voss. Elias looked up. Conrad, he said. No chairman voice, no threat. Just the name of a man who had failed his daughter and was going to have to sit with it longer than one news cycle. My father looked away first. When the surgical nurse came for final confirmation, she spoke to me. Not my father, not Ava, not Elias. Me. June Arlen, you are the confirmed medical decision contact? Yes. Do you consent to proceed under Dr. Grant's approved plan? I looked at my mother through the glass, at the machines and the quiet team moving around her bed. Fear rose so fast it nearly took my voice with it. Elias did not touch me. He waited. That helped more. Yes. I said, proceed. 5 hours later. My mother went into surgery under the approved plan. No foundation camera followed. No donor held a consent page. No friend used the word love as a signature line. The waiting room after that did not become gentle. That surprised me, even though it should not have. I had spent 2 lives thinking that once the truth came out, the air would clear. It did not. Truth is not a window someone opens. It is a light someone turns on. And sometimes the room looks worse before it looks safer. My father sat 2 chairs away from me with a paper cup he never drank from. Daniel stood by the vending machines, then sat, then stood again, every few minutes. He looked at me like he wanted to say something and could not find a version that did not make him smaller first. Finally, he said, I thought you hated being responsible. I looked at him. He rubbed both hands over his face. That is what Ava always said, that you wanted authority, but not the ugly part. And you believed her. It was easier. Honesty again. Small. Late. Still better than another excuse. I watched the surgery status board change from prep to in procedure. Responsibility is mostly ugly part. I said, that is why people like Ava try to make it look like a photo opportunity. Daniel sat down slowly. Did Mom know? About Ava? About all of it. I thought of the cropped letter. Love, not authority. Be kind, but do not hand her the pen. She knew enough to warn us. We were the ones who wanted the warning to be about someone else. He nodded once. It was not forgiveness. It was not even repair. But it was the first conversation we had without Ava translating our family for us. Across the room. Elias stayed quiet. He did not perform patience. He simply had it. When the nurse came out to ask one question about a medication history, he looked at me first. Not because he did not know the answer, because this authority was mine. And after everything that had happened, he would not borrow even a piece of it without permission. That kind of love does not trend well. It saves people anyway. The hospital announcement that evening was plain. St. Ormond confirms patient rights review in Arlen case. Foundation transfer suspended pending investigation. Not beautiful. Accurate. There was no mention of Ava's childhood in my house. No mention of my father's exhaustion. No mention of my brother believing the wrong person because anger was easier than checking a chart. The announcement did not explain every wound, and for once, I was grateful. Public correction does not have to carry every private bruise. It only has to stop the lie from continuing to walk around with official shoes. I watched it from a plastic chair outside the surgical floor. With my father's apology still unfinished, my brother's silence still heavy, Ava's betrayal still fresh, and Elias's flight somewhere over the Pacific. The countdown monitor on my phone reached 0 at 2:17 a.m. For the first time in 2 lives, 0 did not mean I had lost time. It meant they had. The clock had finally stopped working for the people who used urgency as a weapon. This time, the room heard. They had 72 hours to make me sign. I used those 72 hours to make every room hear what they said when they thought the mic was off.